Gracious and loving God, we give you thanks for everybody together here tonight. We gather tonight for sharing the vision and dream that you have given us. Please, Lord, come and bless this gathering with unity, hope, and vision, especially be with the renovation team, the individuals who are presenting, and also be with everybody that are receiving information. Please continue to fill our lives with your love and fill this conversation with grace and truth. And fill our meeting of tonight with your presence. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Welcome to the information meeting of the renovation team, and we hope our presentation will create enthusiasm and support for the ideas presented here this evening. I'm going to be speaking briefly about the history of this committee and what we've accomplished so far, what we hope to accomplish. The sanctuary renovation team began work on May 12, 2016. The committee was created by the trustees to take on the work of creation and installation of a stained glass window and renovation of the sanctuary, particularly the stage area. The reasons for these changes were that money had been donated for the window and the work needed to be done. Also, the sanctuary stage has become too crowded, the sanctuary technology is a patchwork situation, and the grand piano needs to be up on the stage. Tech cables are trip hazards. If you'd like to see, just go by the piano and the organ, but watch your feet because of the big mounds of cables back there. In short, we need to improve the functionality, versatility, and safety of our sanctuary. Work on the window was completed on March 28, 2017, and it was dedicated on April 23, 2017. The team is now ready to move into the second phase, which is renovation of the sanctuary. The team has visited churches in Valley Center, Asbury United Methodist Church, and Chapel Hill United Methodist Church. The team saw several configurations of stages and pews. We have incorporated some of what we saw into the presentation you're going to see tonight. Pastor Jeff Gannon of Chapel Hill United Methodist Church has been especially helpful with advice and suggestions about technology, the important placement of pews, and the versatility of an open stage. Members of the team have been researching carpet and pew cushion colors and replacements, sound and video systems, the need for a new organ, and sanctuary design and construction. Mike McCormick will be up next to share more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'll talk about the sound and audio component of this project. The sound and audio and lighting actually all go together, and one of the prime problems that we have is that with this sound system and screen in here, we've kind of patched together in two different ways, and we have, between services, we have to unplug some things and plug them in differently in order to make the second service run. We also have the capability right now, we don't have the capability of what I call plug and play for the second service. We have lots of cording back here, including a large snake that wraps all the way around, snake jack that runs all the way around and through the choir seating, which is a dangerous hazard. Part of the sound would have jacks that would be all on this side and the center, and covered jacks on the left, so that had provided flexibility for plug and play, for microphones, for instrumentation, sound equipment and things like this, so that when they're not used, they're unplugged and out of the way. And now we don't have the cords and the tripping hazards and things of that nature. Also, the organ has been quite a bit, we had quite a bit of repairs to it. We've had someone come in, an organ expert, to look and said it really ought to be replaced. Otherwise, all the keys have to come out, and all the hammers and everything's got to be rebuilt. I took some pictures of what it looked like. Garton's Music came, and it was just really in bad shape, and a lot of things were going to have to be, it was going to be out of commission for about a month or so in order to get everything stripped out and re-put in. So that was a suggestion that was made, that we might want to look at a new organ. Also, lights and audio, we need to go to a 2-screen concept for the size of the church, is what it was recommended, as well as everything can be digital now, which is a lot easier to hear. We also have in our thought process some additional lighting that would simply light up this area to give, not theater light, but to give it the flexibility of having some other productions or concert programs and things like that with children. Up here in the space, particularly as we do a lot of things with choir and handbells or choir, and the children's choir, space and chords make it a real tripping hazard, as well as there's really not an accessible way to get up here for either wheelchair accessibility or someone with a walker or cane to be safe to get up and down, so that's a concern as well. So that's kind of where we came as far as the space, the sound, the lights, the organ.
Good evening. I came here earlier today and I was asking Amy if I could practice on the teleprompter, and she said we don't have one. So excuse me while I read my notes then. After we looked at numerous churches, we came back here and looked at ours to see what was possible. We considered what to do with the organ, and looking at it closer, we decided it wasn't worth spending any more money on. We also looked at the closets that house the cardboard tubes that make the sound of the organs. They're in these 2 large closets on either side. Oh, it's those 2 closets. We determined that removing these closets did not involve anything structural, and this decision was made with the help of 2 architects and a contractor. Once these decisions were made, we wanted a way to experiment with different designs. Luckily, there was someone available with a 3D drawing program to help us out, and Roger has spent a lot of time working on this. We first drew out the whole sanctuary as it is currently. And then we could start moving walls and removing lecterns and planters. We could also start pulling the stage outward. There's a lot of space which is not being used very efficiently between the communion rail and the higher part of the stage. The lecterns and the planters obstruct a large portion of the stage. There's only about 16 feet in between the 2 lecterns, and you can't really see the whole stage. During this process, we had Jeff Gannon, like Farrell mentioned, from Chapel Hill come out and share with us about their expansion and their building project. And he gave us a lot of good information. And one of his suggestions was that we really liked was angling the pews. And this is a picture of the Chapel Hill United Methodist Church. And I think I like our stained glass window a little better than theirs. But they have to have a lot of light behind it because they don't have an outside light source. So anyway, if we go to the new rendition that we drew, one of the first things you notice is that the pews are angled. And another thing, we added a nice wide ramp along the left side here. So if you can zoom in over that. That would make it, easier and safer to access the stage. We also moved the two walls back, these here, this wall and this wall back about 12 feet. We also added a second screen so that no matter where you're sitting, you'll have a good view of both, or the screens from you, no matter where you're sitting. We also brought the stage out and incorporated the existing communion rail. And that doubles as a stage railing. The expanded square footage is about 962 square feet, which is an increase of about 63%. A lot of times corners are kind of wasted space, and what we did with the two corners, Roger can remove the roof here, and we can show you that we added storage in both corners. I really appreciate Roger having this computer drawing, that it really gave us a good idea of what things could look like. For me, it's hard to explain sometimes, but with this, if you can see it, it makes it easier to explain. We're also considering installing an additional emergency exit in the wall, on the north wall, right over there, and possibly putting a ADA ramp in. So we're not quite sure yet if we're going to do that. That is a possibility, and we'll probably have that quoted 2 ways. So I think that's about all I've got. I guess Greg was going to finish up.
Yeah. Good evening. It is nice to see all of you here this evening. We appreciate your interest in looking at this proposal. You're now up to date on what's been going on since May of 2016. I know there's been a lot of folks talking in the church, and you'll hear comments about, well, I think they're going to do this, or I think they're going to do that. So now you kind of really know what the renovation team has been thinking and planning and looking at. I think there are 3 things that you can take from this presentation that you've seen tonight and that is the functionality. This will serve a purpose very well. It's versatile, has varied uses, it's changeable. You can have the choir, you can convert it to the praise band, you can have special music. The other thing is the stairs. You eliminate the stairs, you have a ramp. It makes it much more accessible for our choir members and others using it. Wheelchair accessibility. So I think that's important to recognize as well. I think before I go any further though, I would like to recognize the renovation team. These folks have spent a lot of time working on this, and it's all their own time. They've not hired any resources. This is just the professional expertise that they have. And the renovation team, I think they're scattered, so just stand up so everybody kind of knows who the renovation team members are, because they've done a whale of a job and spent a lot of time on this project. And I think it's a good time to say this is a concept. You know, nobody's moved forward, not about to do that without getting the support of the congregation. They will be available. Any of these folks will be available to talk to you, your small group meetings, your Sunday school classes, whatever you would like. If you've got questions, let's get those answered from folks on this renovation team. They plan to provide ongoing dialogue if we choose to move forward with this project. So it's important that we know how supportive the congregation is going to be on moving forward with this. I'm sure there's questions, and we're going to take a few of those questions tonight, try to answer some of those thoughts that you've got, some of the questions you might have. So, but please understand, this is conceptual. This is just where we are at the present time. There's lots of work to do. If we move forward, you know, and then this is one of the reasons that I got involved, as being a chair of the Finance Committee. You know, how are we going to fund this project? The questions become, what's the time frame? Do we do a capital campaign like we did on the WCC? Do we do a capital campaign, see what we get, and then start borrowing money? Those are the questions that are not answered at this point in time. And one of the reasons, and I'm sure some of you are curious as to what the cost of this project will be, we don't know that. There might be some estimates, but we're out soliciting some bids on this right now, so we don't really know what the cost is going to be. So there's no point in asking that question tonight, because we don't know. But I think you have heard enough information that you can kind of make a decision as to, yeah, this is something we ought to do and move forward with it, or I'm not sure that that's what we want to do. So we're curious to hear what the feedback that you all have. And I guess at this point in time, I'll kind of take some of those questions and we'll pass it on to the folks that have the answers, because I sure don't have the answers. So anybody have a question that you'd like to or comments, or hey, let's get this started? We'll take any of those. Cheryl.
Where will the communion rails go?
Will the communion rails, where will they go? Is that what you said?
Yes.
These?
Yeah. Oh, they're staying right there?
They're used 100%. They're not modified at all. It's unbolting these and just bolting them in place. So the original communion rails up here will remain. The communion rails you see in the picture are these identical communion rails today with the kneeler. So all this would work and everything with the lettering and all that stays. Nothing will be changed on these. It's just they would be removed and then put back in right in front of the stage. Those would be maintained.
Judy?
The proposal or the consideration says 3 screens, 2 in the front, third one on the east wall of this back here for those, for access of
It would be, here, Bryson.
The question was about the 3 screens. We'll have 2 in the front, and the third would be on the back wall, would be up in this area. And it's for the choir and the praise team and the people that are performing so that they can see what the rest of the congregation sees. It's in this area. It may be up there, we're not sure yet, but it will be so that the screens will probably be as large as the ones in the front.
Will the chimes upstairs that are up there, will they stay? They can be used with the new organ?
The chimes upstairs.
Organ? Up there.
The organ? The organ chimes.
There's what's up there is more cardboard tubes that make sound for the organ. And if we get a new organ, it'll be an electronic organ with its own speakers.
The organ systems now would be, when we went to Chapel Hill, we were amazed that they are a digital with their own speaker system. They are not tied in to the sound system at all. They would be a separate speaker system. Everyone we spoke to said that's the way to do it. You do not tie it in with your sound system at all. But so that's how that's done. We did look, we wanted to make sure that we thought it was a pipe organ. It is not pipe organ. They're individual speakers and tubes. And that's kind of a situation now where they're replaced with speakers that would be separate from the sound system.
So the chimes back there will be gone?
I think there's some chimes up in.
No, I'm talking about the ones back there that has a special stop on the organ for. And it plays,
It'd be two different organs, I would assume so.
I didn't hear you.
It'd be a totally different organ, a new organ, so I would assume so.
Is that right?
It sounds to me like they're going to be gone.
Okay.
That's the plan.
All right, I have another question about the organ. Will our organ that we have now be up for sale for someone to buy and rebuild? Or what happens to it?
I don't think any decisions have, I don't even think that's been talked about, Judy. I really don't. And I would have no idea at this point in time what the value of that organ would be in today's environment. I would guess that it's probably outdated to some degree. But that's just my thought.
My question is about the seating capacity in the sanctuary here and spacing of the pews, allowing more space in between them. Comments on those?
Okay? Seating capacity and the spacing of the pews.
I'm not sure what the capacity is right now, but if we move the pews the way we've drawn it, we would lose 2 pews on that side and 1 pew on this side. That would give us a little more room in the back there so you could actually come through the double door and also the single door. So Roger, I don't know if you can show that. Yeah, and we're spacing the pews out to give us 4 more inches in between each pew.
So does that allow for a handicap spot though, like we have now?
Wait, I know it doesn't show it here. We didn't, it's a process to shorten up 1 pew in the drawing program. We'll still have this area for handicap. And I'm considering the first, Roger, if we can look at the first 2 pews, we may just cut the ends down a little bit so you would have an additional place for wheelchair. And that would also give us a little more room on the access.
What's the seating capacity per each pew? Is it 10 or 12?
I think it's about 300 right now. We'll be using the same pews. Yeah, we're using the same pews. We're just going to get them reupholstered. Yes.
A question about the first row of pews. Will we still have the communion rail on it also? There's a lot of people in the church that need to sit down and they can take communion.
Well, there will still be a kneeling rail for this communion rail. We are not planning on putting this modesty rail or additional communion rail back. You could still be sitting down in the front, and they could have someone serve them. There's a lot of different ways that communion can be served. Yes?
I'm just curious, because I've never understood a choir of 3 words. Choir, is there a double door and then another door? I don't understand that.
I don't know either.
I've been going to church here 29 years, I don't know that.
I don't know.
Go back to 1958.
If I were to guess, I'm thinking maybe for this size of room, they needed a certain amount of door space for exits. I don't know.
I just think if you're gonna build a door like this size, then you have to put a word right there.
It's the extra door right now is just an option. And I don't know why we need to take it out. It just costs more money to remove it and fill it in. I don't think it would be worth it.
I'm just going to guess that, because I remember when our kids were small, I think Sarah was even part of that, it was much more convenient for a parent to take a child out that door rather than banging doors. And also that's where ushers would be gathered. So a lot of times it was easier to maybe slide right out that door with a child, although Sarah was never noisy.
Back in the back?
I was just going to ask, when you get a question, will you repeat it, please? Because those of us back here can't hear what the question is that you're answering.
We'll try to do that.
Thank you so much.
She wanted to know what the question is, if we would repeat them. So we're going to do that.
Do you have a sample of the carpet? Because we heard it was brown.
I think they are looking at some carpet samples. I think they've looked at various carpet samples. Charlotte and Jeannie have kind of been spearheading that up.
We haven't even measured that far.
No.
Well, Roger, if you would like... The question was, were we looking at brown carpet samples or what? Is that right? And if you want, Roger can change the color of all this, to whatever you want. So it was just, we knew that we wanted, Jeff Gannon suggested we get away from the red and go with more earth tones. That was a suggestion.
Paul, we've had brown carpet in here before, and it didn't last very long at all before they went.
Paul said that they'd had brown carpet in the sanctuary before. Pardon?
Yeah.
Well, I think what the committee is doing is looking at some of those things. If you have strong opinions on that, you need to let the committee know. That's, I think that's one of the reasons we're having this meeting tonight, is to get this word out here and get you some of the thoughts. But as far as picking a color of carpet, that's not been picked. They have looked at various colors of carpet. Other questions? Jude? Here.
I'm kind of slow at understanding the structure here. So all of that kind of deal there where the exit is and up where the lights are and that panel will be coming out, right? All of that set of stuff on both sides. Yeah.
All right. This wall here would be moved back about 12 feet. Then the ramp would run along that wall. We'd fill in that doorway there. It would be just straight and then turn at the end. This beam right here is this beam right here. See, the door originally was right here.
What are they doing with the stairway that goes to the basement over here?
That will all stay there.
It didn't show that in your design, because that was cabinets. That's outside of it.
That's outside of the wall. That's on the other side of that wall. And that, to go downstairs, you'll have to go through the door in the foyer.
Nancy?
Is the stage going to be higher than it is now?
Is the stage going to be higher than it is now? No, it's not. It's going to be this level right here. We'll just come out about to where this step is, and it'll be 1 foot farther, and that will be the edge of the stage, and then 2 steps. And the angle of the pews, this first pew, this will stay here, and that end will move up till where the communion rail is. So that'll come up 3 feet. And that gives you the same amount of room up front here. This corner, it's a little hard to see, but the point of this corner, where this first step is, that's going to be back 2 feet.
With that height staying the same, but coming out, and then also some of the addition to this space, and our new stained glass, what we were noticing and we've had comments on is that in some places up here, it's hard to see pastor at times. And that's a huge problem because he's such a good-looking pastor, right? We want to see every inch of him. So that's kind of where some of the additional lighting to kind of soften up and lighten up this area that we were having some dark spots with. And then where he would preach from, something similar to this, Chapel Hill has, it's a podium that is portable. It is more of a plexiglass, where it's see-through, has some planters around it, but then it can be moved, removed, as we would use it for other functions. So it's not that he's just going to stand up here and preach without a pulpit. It would be more of a portable pulpit.
Susan?
So what, all these lights go away?
We're looking at the lighting. Oh, will all the lights go away? No, I think the lights most of the lights will stay. We need to do some lighting with this up front here, because some of these lights up here, they reflect off the window sometimes, depending where you're sitting at, and it washes Jesus' face out.
The additional lighting was just on the back sides here of the trim wall to be able to just additional lighting, to give some more lighting to complement these. These would not go away.
No, and
you would add to them for some addition. Correct.
The lights up there will go away, so we need a little more light in this area, and they will be installed on this first beam.
Just a little history on the lights that you see today. The tough part we've been looking at for lights for years on the trustees is each fixture, for a nice fixture, costs at least $1,000. And to get something nicer or ornate, makes it heavier. It's unsure of how structural those attachments are up there. You can't get in there because there's no attic to rewire it. That's the tough thing. And the way it's hooked up to a dimmer, so you can have dimming lights with our existing setup, to get in there and run different wiring for dimming and stuff, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of cost. It would be very difficult to replace lights. So we've been dealing with that for years, trying to make it better. What we did do, hopefully you noticed on Sunday morning, it's hard with the sun coming in right now, but good thing we don't have services this late. But that's going to change with time, right? It's the time of day, but at least on Sundays, we did go ahead and replace these lights because Bryson and a few others would end up on ladders every other month, replacing the big, huge light bulbs in there that would burn at 300 watts a piece, times 10 is quite a bit of wattage. And they only last a year or two. What we ended up doing is we found some fixtures that allow you to put five LED bulbs in each one. And by equivalent to about a 100-watt bulb. And for that 100 watts, it made it about 70% brighter at each fixture. And all that was done for about under $500. All those were replaced. And another good thing is hopefully nobody has to get on the ladder for another 25 years to replace those if those stick. So that's kind of what we tried to do. We tried to keep it on a budget, but we tried to get it as bright as we could without having to spend a lot of money on fixtures. And the other thing about fixtures is nobody will give you a fixture they don't have them made. You have to order them, spend $1,000, wait 8 weeks to put one up and go, well, we didn't like that. So that's always a tough challenge. So it's not that it hasn't been looked at. It's been looked at many times and it's very frustrating. But that's where we're at today. We did at least get it right.
June?
Will the sound system be a surround type so that in here, where we only have one, will be a surround type of
Right now, we just have one, or will the sound be a surround type speaker system? Mike?
No, it won't be a surround sound. The speaker system will be similar to what is in WCC. It won't be two, and it won't be as large because we don't want it to be in the way. But it will be, in actuality, we've had discussions whether we will test the sound when we get in here. We would actually have the installation process. The company would test decimal lights, whether it's better to be on the first beam or at the second. But it would be similar to what you have there as far as size and shape, but the power would be much more cleaner because it's digital. And then also part of that sound that's been discussed is taking that capability down to overflow areas in case of funerals and weddings or different events that are larger, whether that's WCC or whether that's some of that audio and sound, even to maybe the fireside room one of the companies did look and say that it's very easy to take in digital at one cord for both sound and audio and run it right down there and drop it to where you have families who wait there for a funeral. It's a good place for them to be able to have some audio and sound as well. But the sound has just made huge. You can have something that size that will sound 10 times better because it's all digital now. Yeah, this would not be. Yeah, we definitely would have that spaced out equally where it goes. This is, like I said, extremely old.
Dean? Yes. Have you considered the heating and cooling, because the major heating out here comes from that unit, and the heating for the choir area comes from the one down there and the one down here, and then those two big ones are the intakes down to the basement, and over here there's two big intakes.
Right. The question was, have we considered the heating and air ducts and where they're located? And yeah, that was one of the first things we looked at. And right now, there's air that comes out there and there on that side, and here on this side. These others are intake underneath there. They're return vents. What we would do is, this would be an output vent here, and the secondary one would be right there above the door. And it would actually shorten up some of the ductwork, because right now there's 4 units in the basement. 2 go to this side and 2 go to the other side. The ductwork comes out this way and then up. We would be able to shorten that a little bit to get to those same size vents. No, the door that's being shown right there, is that where the choir's going to come out? Not unless they're in the closet. The door to access the choir loft, it would come through these doors and go up the ramp. These doors, or these doors, would go up the ramp and get to the choir risers.
How does the groomsman and the groom get up there?
Right, and we did consider that, Roger, if we still have this access door right here, and you can come around the outside of the church, come in this door, and we'll have a stairs and a walkway to come out that door there. Then you can walk in from there.
Well, I'm not planning on meeting it.
Susan? I'm concerned about the front row. We use that for communion, and if you do away with that, that's going to increase our communion time double.
The question was, if we do away with the second rail, it's going to increase our communion time. And I don't know if someone else wants to address that, but when we went to 4 or 5 churches and we looked at their setup, you never see a modesty rail like this in any of the later built or newer versions of the church. They just do away with them. There's a lot of different ways you can do communion. I don't know if you want to share with... If Chapel Hill, they have communion every Sunday, and they seat 900 people. They have a system to where they can serve everybody in 5 to 10 minutes. If you want to, if you want to see how other churches do it, there are ways of doing it. Everyone doesn't have to come to the front. And they can serve trays down the rows or have different places where you can take communion and go to your seat.
Yeah, I'll be real honest, that's something that was talked about, but at the same point in time, as we shared, this is the concepts. And if our church body feels strongly that, this is not a lot of space, that if that's something we want to take back as our church body really wants this, that's something we can talk about. Does that provide you the way of having communion multiple ways, intinction being served or kneeling, but at the same point in time, this is also, if you look at the drawings, not going to have that much space difference if it's there at the front. I don't think it's a deal breaker. I think it's something that the committee could talk about and discuss, that if that's something that, where the concept, that's part of the discussion here as well, and that's something that you could come and definitely, if you feel strongly about that, then you could definitely express that to the committee members, and that's what we'll take back and talk about, think about.
Susan?
What's the reasoning for angling the pews? Just to be something new, or?
Susan, the question was, what's the reasoning for angling the pews?
You're going to lose 3 pews, if I understood it right.
2 on one side, 1 on the other, but all that pricing. Now you can't keep asking questions when we're trying to answer the first one. Mike's going to answer that.
One of the things that Pastor Gannon had mentioned was the fact that it makes it much more inviting, where people can acknowledge each other. I know that I went back a couple of times to observe services, and it was, when you go from the back, you can see that you are really absolutely locked in here, and very much you have to make a conscious effort to turn around and acknowledge and greet and people, and so it makes it a little more open, a little more friendly. That was something Pastor Gannon had recommended. Matter of fact, one thing that wasn't mentioned is Pastor Gannon had come down and looked at several options in several of the places and given us some options, and he said absolutely would not change, I would have it here and I wouldn't change taking out pews and putting in chairs, but have you thought about, we had never thought about angling the pews. He said it would make it so much more inviting because you can relate to each other across the pews. And that just, to us, was a very simple way to become a little more inviting, a little more greeting with each other, and not costing very much money at all. You're only talking about losing 3 pews. I think we're still going to be okay there. But hopefully it'd be fantastic if we ended up filling all those pews and we needed to add them back in. I'd love that. That'd be great. So
Today I went to Hayesville United Methodist Church. I had a meeting, and they just recently had a sanctuary renovation, just like our church is planning to do. And I was shocked because they used the same pews, but they were all angled. They used to be this way, but then they were angled. I don't know where they got this idea, but that gives us a clear picture of what that is, kind of how we congregations and we interact with each other, more focusing on God, and at the same time, so that's the kind of trend that when the renovation happens, then they try to angle the pews. I noticed that today.
Susan.
What happens to the floor then? I mean, with the wood?
Susan asked what happens to the floor and where they're nailed down, and Bryson has an answer for that.
I do. Yeah, well, what happens to the floor? They redid the floor not too many years ago, and for the most part, it's in pretty good shape. I'm sure we're going to have to fill some holes if we move the pews and spread them out. We'll have to fill holes, and then along the edges, they're going to be different where the carpet is. That area will have to be sanded and refinished, and maybe put another coat of clear over everything. But that would be, I think, about the most that we would have to do. John?
I have a question, Greg, I think you can finally answer. In the upper right-hand corner, it looks like a golf green with a flag in it. Indoors or outdoors?
John's question was, in the upper right hand of the screen, there was a golf flag.
We assume John Rogers would be making a healthy donation, and that is going to go to the John Rogers Memorial Golf Green.
He needs an indoor putting green.
Thank you, Greg.
Judy?
This is an easy one. The grand piano there in the picture, then back behind it, is that the digital organ?
No, that is not.
Or is that
Judy's question is, the organ or the thing, whatever, behind the grand piano, is that the new digital organ? That is not. That's what we have currently. That's how big it is, that's how much space it takes up. We measured it and boxed it out, so basically that's the size of our existing organ. I think a new organ would probably be a little bit smaller.
And when the piano lid is raised, will they be able to see out to see the ushers? Or does it only take up the room?
The question was, when the piano lid will be raised, will we be able to see what's going on in the rest of the stage? Oh, okay. When the piano, I see the choir. Let me back up. The question was, if the piano lid is raised, will the choir be able to see over the...
there temporarily just to show floor space, but it's on wheels today, so it can be moved out of the way slightly if it blocks
Like when you're playing for funerals and weddings and such, or for the offertories, you want to be able to see. This is just up here because it's what it was there for. It was just because we had that, and I know that the piano would want to face the other way. But it's also the flexibility when we get everything hooked up sound-wise and things for this. We have the flexibility of everything is pretty portable, so we can look once the organ comes in to go, where do we want the organ? Do we want the organ and piano on that side? Do we want the organ and piano on this side? I mean, we have that flexibility because we'll have sound all over the place. And so, to be real honest with you, that's something that we would bring in some of the people who play those and have a look and see where we would position it. So it's just on this side now for the drawings and such.
Yes.
Okay, this is fine during the whole year. What about at special times like at Easter and Christmas? Where would you put a Christmas tree for the church, for the sanctuary? Where would you put the nativity?
The question is, for Christmas and Easter, where would we put the Christmas tree? Where would we put the nativity? And I really hadn't thought, maybe Mike has some input.
Once again, the flexibility allows you, if you look up here, you can put the Christmas tree and the nativities on either side still, especially since it's seasonal. With all the space, the biggest part is we're going to have 60% more space. So we can still put the nativity up here where it normally would be. If we want to put it on that side, we can still put the Christmas tree over on this side. Matter of fact, it'll be a little more front and center, so with the nativity. So you have some options. you can also decide, wow, with all of that going, we may want that part of some other part of the front area. It just gives you some flexibility there.
With a 10-foot tree, that's going to be up into your screen. What about the Christian flag and the American flag, too?
I think they got, well, I think we've got plans, or will make plans to surely incorporate all those things in there because they are important to us. I mean, but in my opinion, there's going to be more space, so it shouldn't create a real issue from that standpoint. And again, folks, this is fluid, and it's 7 o'clock, and we said this was going to be an hour, and we've got folks that are already starting to leave. And I guess the one question that I'd ask this group that's remaining is, what are your first thoughts? We're not holding anybody to anything, but are you supportive of this and moving forward? Because there's been a lot of time invested. There's going to have to be a lot more time invested in order to move this project forward. Then begins the fundraising or the stewardship on it, and that will also take some time. So I think we need to know what your thoughts are, and if you don't want to pass those on tonight, let us know in the next 2 or 3 weeks, because this is something that is important to the church, but you folks are the ones that are going to get to help pay for it. So we need to know what kind of support that we have from the group, and so I just would ask, are you supportive of this? Susan? We will, Susan wanted to know, we need to know what the cost is, and that's exactly right.
Because this is all going to have to be a donation, right?
Pardon?
This is all going to have to be a donation.
Absolutely.
Are we making our bills now?
Sure. Financially, our church is in great shape. We've got money. The Mission and Ministries has paid in full up to, the end of August. And I'm telling you, that's been the first time in a long time, all summer, that this church has been ahead on its mission and ministries. So, from that standpoint, we're in good shape. Will it require additional giving? Either that or upfront giving. It will require additional funds. There's no doubt about that. It's just like a remodel at your house. It's going to require a little more money. So, I think what you're saying to us is, go ahead, let's get the bids, get the costs. We're going to communicate very well on this project. We're going to keep you in the loop, so you're going to be apprised. And if anybody has any questions, and you want Roger Bryson to come into a small group meeting, explain this, bring more information to you, any of the team, Charlotte, Jeannie, any of the team, will be more than willing to do that. So just let them know. But with that, Pastor G, you want to lead us in a word of prayer before we adjourn?
Gracious God, I personally thank you for these wonderful people who make up this wonderful congregation called the First United Methodist Church of Valley Center. Lord, may you fill your wisdom, vision, and hope as we continue to seek your will for us and for this church. Be with us, Lord, as we strive for the vision and dream that you have given us. And help us to know everything that we do and say is for your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you, folks.